Feedback rigidity paradox involves receiving and using feedback, but not being dictated by that feedback. Feedback fuels growth. It's pretty obvious, but an over reliance on it actually can kill your originality. Leaders have to learn to listen deeply and genuinely to sources of their feedback without surrendering their conviction and what they believe to be right or what they believe to be true. Use feedback, but don't be used by it. Now, the difficulty with this paradox is largely a psychological one because most people equate listening with agreeing, and that's not true. That's not how you should approach it. Just because you receive feedback doesn't necessarily mean you have to change, although perhaps you should. And that's the point of listening. You should definitely listen and consider what you're hearing because there might be a kernel of truth to it. Or the person giving you feedback might be trying to communicate something to you that is important and that is indicative of a real problem, but they aren't actually effective at communicating it to you. And so the feedback that you're receiving might be indicative of a real problem, but the way they're communicating obscures the root cause of why they are actually giving you the feedback in the first place. So you have to listen. I'll give you an example. The SEAL teams uses a version of 360 feedback. And this was done every 6 months or so over a 2 year period. Every 6 months, your peers, your subordinates, and your own leadership would have an opportunity to evaluate you and give you feedback. And it was largely anonymous, but not exclusively. There was a younger member of my platoon who gave me a piece of feedback. And this feedback came from when we were at a training location and we had just finished up a few days of hard training with late nights, long days, and we were cleaning up the space that we were using to operate out of. And there were about 50 people in not that big of a space, cleaning up, picking up trash, sweeping the floors, putting away chairs. And there wasn't much work to be done. A lot of people were just kind of wandering around looking like they were picking up trash. I thought it'd be a better use of my time than to fight over the three brooms that were there, to talk to some of my leadership about some of the longer term plans that we had. Now, this younger member of my platoon saw that and thought I was neglecting my responsibilities to clean up. Now, he's not necessarily wrong that I wasn't cleaning up and perhaps I should have been. The way he communicated this feedback, he was basically communicating that I wasn't doing my job as a member of the platoon. Now, instead of writing this off and saying, well, this kid doesn't know what he's talking about, I dug into it and thought about it. And what I landed on was that, well, it's not about the broom and it's not about the cleaning. It was more about he didn't understand what our roles and responsibilities were, me being the platoon commander and him being a younger member of the platoon, and that a better use of my time in order to pursue that division of labor and those roles and responsibilities was not actually fighting over the three brooms amongst the 50 people. It was actually talking to my leadership about what the next couple of weeks were going to look like for us. That's one example. Point is, effective leadership requires filtering every feedback, not obedience to it. The insight here is that leaders who overreact to every opinion risk drifting from what's truly important. And the leaders who ignore input stagnate because they isolate themselves from the truth. And so the real skill in this paradox lies in identifying legitimate signal versus noise. And that counts with every source of feedback, whether it's from your subordinates, whether it's from your peers, your superiors, your clients, customers, your partners, etc. Now, a quick strategy to operationalize this feedback paradox is to filter feedback through three simple questions. The first question is this feedback about the goal or about the method? The second question is, does it reflect the truth that I need to be aware of, or does it reflect a preference? And should that preference override mine? And then the third question is, if we or I act on it, does it actually make us better or more unique, or does it make us more average? So that's a really simple way to stay adaptive through the feedback process and through the paradox of feedback without becoming overreactive to it.